You're such a good boy. Yes. Good. It's nothing there. All right, I want to do a quick little video. I'm a little late with getting videos out for them, mostly just because I've been doing so much with each one of them individually, because it was a lot of chaos. The first day I had them together, they're like running all over the room, as I'm sure you're used to. So, Louie here is much more biddable and wanting to do stuff with me, and I think a little bit of that is like the labby stuff in him. Whereas Rosie is a little bit anxious and kind of not super interested in me. Like, she's friendly and social with me, but she's also very invested in her environment. A lot of the stuff that I'm working on with her is helping her like be a little bit more confident and work through things. I noticed her getting really antsy when she's asked to kind of be off on her own. A little bit of anxiety in her kennel, like drooling, and she a lot of times has like schmuckus all over her from her drooling on herself. So I've been trying to help her build confidence and a little bit of spatial independence. So you'll see like she's on a back tie right there. I want her to work through her just a little bit of stress of being over here by herself without, like, stress is okay. Stress is okay for them to deal with as long as it's productive and there is an outcome that, or like on the other side of that stress is a good skill set for her to have. So I want her to learn how, like I want her to deal with a little bit of stress now and learn that she can cope with being by herself. Place. But the back tie is there so that I can communicate with her and make it so she can't just move off without me having to go physically put her back into behavior so often, because I think that's like the ultimate goal, right? It's like, I don't want to be here by myself, I need to be nearer to you, so if every time she breaks behavior I go back over to her. I want to avoid possibly reinforcing any of her breaking behavior with my presence or like me coming near her. So that's kind of my goal there. Whereas Louie is much better at settling. He's really food motivated with me and willing to do whatever for food. He's got showing really nice engagement. The big thing that I'm working through with him is lack of impulse and him wanting to just kind of use his size to his advantage. So I went through with a lot of luring and showing him like, hey, this is a good place to be through positive reinforcement, and then separately helping him understand leash pressure and how to respond to it appropriately. Both of them are on prong collars for sake of clarity. Again, like Louie, he just uses his size. He's not really worried about pressure from a slip lead or a regular collar or anything like that. So I needed there to be a little bit of an advantage for me with a pressure source that he is aware of in the moment and responsive to in the moment, so that I can get that better, place. That better communication, more effective communication and the timing of it, so it can switch back over to positive reinforcement. So you see like her, she's very unsure of how to process sitting on this thing. And we've already done all of the, like, she goes on here, she gets a treat and all of that stuff. She understands that that's an okay area to be, and that brings on good things. So I'm really helping her work through, like, when you settle, I will come bring things to you. I'll come reward you. I want to reward her for self-regulating her arousal. So like anxiety is just an energy source. So she's used to kind of just moving around to express that anxiety. It's kind of like when I get really nervous, I start chewing my fingernails. I'm outletting the inner energy that I have. And I'm not like a scientist, so I don't have all the science lingo, but essentially it's the same thing. She's just using a lot of movement. So now I'm saying, you have a little bit of anxiety, and now you have to sit here and you have to learn how to be still, and it's a harder skill set for her. Whereas Louie obviously is pretty okay with just relaxing and settling down. If I move away from him, he's okay with just hanging out, and he's not gonna follow me. But, and I'm not like trying to compare them like Louie's better than Rosie. I'm just pinpointing the things that I've noticed from them. Leash walking individually, again, like they're both figuring it out. Rosie is super responsive to the prong collar, where the moment she felt it on, was hyper aware of it, and I didn't really need to do a lot of, well, I'm not gonna say I didn't do a lot of pressure release, there wasn't as much opportunity for her to work through that because she responded to it the right way immediately. Like as soon as she felt it, she moved back into it to remove that pressure source. So negative reinforcement versus Louie, who fought it, right? He's already used to, if I just try harder, I get the thing that I want. So for Louie, when he felt the prong, he tried harder to drag me around. So I had to do a little bit, I had to really dive down into it, like in the training room where there wasn't a lot of competing motivators. I really had to help him understand the process of prong pressure and release, so that I didn't have to do harsh corrections or anything like that. I don't want there to be that, but if he does dive into his collar and make it a point to stop moving forward, and I will kind of do tap, 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 light, doesn't have to be super hard, light taps until he's like, what the heck, what is that? And then when he responds to it and stops pulling forward, I neutralize the pressure of the prong and I switch over to a reward. No. Place. Okay. Place. No. Don't touch me. No. Place. Good. Good. There she is. And Rosie's not also super place. She's a lot of times will spit out her food. Place. And I think that's just the stress, right? She's like, oh, I'm a little nervous, I don't want to eat food. We spent a lot of time building on relationship and know the bar was low. I just was in here hanging out with her, and she'd take food from me pretty well, but the moment there is any type of stressor, she's kind of not that interested in food, which is fine. I'm pretty used to that. So as far as reinforcing goes, I want them to understand reward events and what to expect when I'm rewarding them, what the reward words mean and all of that stuff. So, excuse me, you will hear me refer to markers. A marker is a word that marks the moment in time that I like something that they do. And for them, that's going to announce the arrival of food, of a reinforcer, a reward. So essentially it's going to bridge the gap between desired behavior and delivery of food so that we don't accidentally reward anything that happens between those two things. So ideally, every time they hear the marker, they know that food is happening, so whatever behavior they're doing when the marker is given, that behavior will take on the good feeling of food, so that they're more likely to do that behavior throughout whenever we ask them to do it. So we have a couple different markers that all have different meanings as far as what I'm looking for them to do when they hear it. So, no. Oh no, you made it move. Louie, no. Place. Good is going to be our duration marker. That means I'm implying that I like what you did and I want you to continue to do it. Good, if I'm saying good, I'm going to bring the reinforcer to them so that he continues to do the behavior. And then, okay, is going to be the terminal marker, meaning that the behavior is over. The main one that I use when shaping new behaviors is going to be yes. And that means I like what you did, come take something from me. And usually, yes, when I'm doing that, there you go. I want to add in a little movement, yes, so that I can up its value. If it's a little bit harder to obtain, it kind of builds a little bit of productive frustration where he's trying to get it, it's harder to get. So it makes it, the fact that it's not as easily obtained makes it kind of more exciting. So depending on the situations that we're in, food value kind of changes depending on that situation. So if there's a little bit of stress, food really drops. Like for Rosie, food is kind of not that big of a deal. So for her, which is a little bit stressed out, what works better for her is not so much food, but a little bit of me running around and hey girl, kind of excited moving and having her chase me around, and a little bit of love pats, maybe pushing her away so that she can't get me. For him, it's going to be having a little bit of movement in that food, so that he's trying to get it, so that way we can hopefully up the value of food when the competing motivators are greater. So yes is something that I use for teaching a new behavior, building engagement, counter conditioning, like for Rosie when I'm trying to, if there's an event happening that's causing a little bit of stress, I want to switch the mindset of, instead of fixating on that thing, hey, you're chasing around food, and kind of lightening the mood a little bit. makes sense. I kind of botched that description. Or like for Louie, who was struggling with how to respond to leash pressure. Let's go. Come here. I would, when I was luring him, yes, when he's showing the thing that I liked, that is when I would mark that behavior. So for him, let's go. A lot of yes, marking when he's doing the thing that I'm looking for. So when I say let's go, I want that to be in this finished heel position. Let's go. Uh-oh. Nope. Let's go. Yes. Marking and paying that moment. So the idea is to put a lot of value on doing one behavior so that they continue to want to do it. And that way, hey, when we do introduce leash pressure, they know what we're looking for in the first place, right? So I don't want to start with too much pressure and have the dog kind of shut down. I want them to think, oh, this is a good place to be. So that way when I do apply pressure, they have an idea of where the default thing is that I'm looking for. Right, buddy? Hey, place. Good. And then right now we're just working on when they hear good, neutralizing, good, neutralizing my movements to none of this means food's happening. The only thing that presents food is good, the marker. Yeah, good. The duration marker has been really big for Rosie because I don't know if it was just her anxiety or whatever, but like if I asked her to sit, first there was a little bit of conflict in that, and I had to kind of do a little bit of leash pressure to help get her into that behavior. But as soon as she sat, she would stand right back up. So I really wanted her to help her understand good is implying to keep doing the behavior. So I'm going to pay her in behavior good when she hears that, so that she understands that duration still brings on those good things. And then we'll just begin to kind of wean out that need for constant reinforcement and kind of change up the frequency and the routine in which those rewards are given. Last week, or Friday, was the first day that I did both of them out leash walking, and I just went out just cold turkey with both of them. And when we first got out there, it was a little bit wonky just because, like most dogs, sibling dogs or whatever, it's almost like this little bit of competition where when there's both of them, they try to like get a little bit ahead of each other. So what they both did individually really well together wasn't as pretty. So we came back in here and fine-tuned that a little bit together where there wasn't really any distraction. So I'm hoping we can make that prettier in situations outside of the training, and we can get them walking nicely down the road and in neighborhoods and in stores and things like that. So that'll be what happens in the future with the remainder of their training. This is just right at the end of their first week, so they're about where they should be with everything. Louie has his strengths and he has his weaknesses, and Rosie has her strengths and weaknesses. They're different from each other, but they're both doing really well within their capacity of dog. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email and I'm happy to answer that. But yeah, all right, good job, guys. Place. Make me proud.